Okay, let me start with this one because it's a really good one. Life insurance. Do we really need to purchase life insurance? So let me frame it for you this way. Life insurance is essentially a financial tool where you pay a small amount of premium every month in order to transfer financial risk to an insurance provider. And what is that risk? Well, that risk is if something were to happen to you or your spouse tomorrow, could your family afford to continue living in the manner in which they are accustomed to? Could you pay your mortgage? Could you pay for the cost of, childcare for your children? Could you pay for all the things you plan to pay and provide for your children before they are old enough to be independent and on their own? The short answer is that if you are reliant on your income, or even if you're a stay-at-home parent, if your family is reliant on you for childcare or just care in general for your family, and you're not financially independent yet and aren't quote unquote self-insured, life insurance is essential if you have financial dependents who rely on you and your source of income. The purpose of life insurance is to cover the loss of your income or the care and services you're providing to your family in the event something were to happen to you. Now, the second question with regards to life insurance is what form of life insurance is appropriate? And over time, there have been all sorts of kind of hybrid insurance products that get touted as like a combination of an investment product, or oftentimes they have high fees associated with them and the premiums are very high. The two basic forms of life insurance that most people will come across are term or whole life. So let's talk about the difference between the two and which is appropriate for most families. So term life insurance covers you for a specific period of time, or term as the name implies. So you are paying a small, and for term life insurance, it's honestly the cheapest premium for the largest amount of coverage that is out there when it comes to life insurance policies. Typically, your premium is going to be a couple $100s a month for oftentimes like millions of dollars worth of coverage. It is not incredibly, I shouldn't say millions, maybe $1 million worth of coverage. It's not super expensive. And it is intended to cover you for the period of time until you no longer have financial dependents or children, and you aren't self-insured yet, meaning you don't have retirement assets set aside yet that are going to provide for you in retirement. And so typically a term life insurance policy is going to last 20 to 30 years. So you're going to pay, a couple $100s a month, or maybe even less than that, in order to give you that financial security and peace of mind that in the event something were to happen to you, that your family would still be provided and cared for, that your spouse could pay off the mortgage, your spouse could hire childcare to replace you as the childcare provider, etc., if necessary, in the event that worst case scenario, something were to happen to you. Whole life insurance covers you for, as it sounds like, the entirety of your life. And the reality is that is oftentimes far more coverage than most people need. Because if you are, behaving financially responsibly, if you are setting aside funds for retirement, at some point you are going to have an asset base in retirement that you can live off of. And that almost acts as like self-insurance, right? So if something were to happen to you, you already have built this asset base, and your surviving spouse and any remaining dependents would be able to live off that asset base. So you aren't going to need that whole life coverage anymore. Whole life coverage is extremely expensive, and it's honestly far more than most people need, or most families need. Now, everybody's circumstances are different. Maybe there's a scenario where you have a dependent child who may be special needs or have a disability, and they may be dependent on you forever. And you may want to be able to have some means that they can survive on, in the event something happens to you, even beyond your retirement age. Now, that's a very specific scenario that doesn't apply to everybody. But in general, term life coverage is sufficient for most families, and it's far less expensive. It's the least expensive insurance coverage there is when it comes to life insurance. But generally speaking, unless you are independently wealthy, unless you already have significant retirement assets set aside that are accessible to your family immediately in the event something were to happen to you, most families with financial dependents and children definitely need life insurance. So I hope that that answers the question and also gives some background information on the difference between kind of the two major coverage options and also which is probably most appropriate for most families.